Catastrophe in California. A Los Angeles disaster movie roars to life.
Whoa!
This was like an 80-mile-an-hour blowtorch.
I came out and I saw a fireball.
Do you know what you're gonna do now?
How do I get to my house?
Tonight, homes in ashes.
Oh, God, it's gone.
I hadn't cried until I got here.
Lives in chaos.
My parents tried to get me out of here, but I couldn't leave.
I can't go, bro. 51 years, man, I've been in this house.
Heroes in action.
You haven't slept.
Not really. You got control on one, and then the winds pick up.
The flames are still burning, and questions are burning too.
Why was there no water in the hydrants, Governor? Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be.
What lies ahead?
How do you come back from something like this?
They come back one day at a time.
LA's landscape changed forever. Its strength still stands.
We are resilient. We'll find a way.
We will rebuild, and we will rebuild together.
Now, the very latest from the front lines. Fire and ash. Devastation in LA. Good evening. I'm Lester Holt. Everywhere you look in fire-ravaged LA, scenes of apocalyptic destruction, as 6 different wildfires turn some of the most iconic neighborhoods in the world into moonscapes. Here's where things stand this evening. At least 11 people are dead. More than 150,000 are under evacuation orders. And some 10,000 buildings and structures have been burned to the ground. Tonight, stories of heartbreak, heroism, and also hope. But first, we take you moment by moment through the last 4 days, from the first sparks to the mammoth blazes now unleashing their full fury across a great American city. It all began 4 days ago when Los Angeles residents might have expected a typically beautiful Tuesday in their city. But that morning was different. Dry winds were blowing harder than almost anyone could remember. So around 10:30 a.m., when a small fire broke out along a bushy hillside near a state park, those winds quickly fanned the flames. LA firefighters got word on their internal radio channel.
This has the potential for 200 plus acres in the next 20 minutes. We have a potential for structures being threatened in the next 20 minutes.
The fire started to burn through one of the wealthiest and most beautiful neighborhoods in the country, the Pacific Palisades.
I saw when the fire first started, so I rushed over here to pack my belongings, and I got the evacuation orders.
Barely 2 hours after the fire broke out, residents began fleeing by car, but some got stuck in their tracks.
The homeowners are saying they're unable to access any exit routes. There's fire on both sides of the roads.
Amid the growing chaos, many abandoned their cars in the gridlocked traffic. Responding fire crews used a bulldozer to clear a path. Crucial minutes ticked by. By 4 p.m., the monstrous fire had gathered even more strength, devouring homes.
I think over behind us on Enchanted Way, there's probably 4 homes that were lost. I could see from the roof, I could see a structure on fire, so.
Firefighters tried to attack the flames with airdrops by helicopter as the winds kept driving the fire forward, toppling trees and severing power lines.
The only thing I heard above that wind was the power lines popping.
By 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the Palisades fire had already burned more than 1,200 acres and forced the evacuation of thousands.
We were here not too long ago.
California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency.
It's incredibly important that we heed the warnings, the calls, that we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination.
The governor was right. Just as he and his team were speaking, another fire had broken out in Altadena, a small foothill community to the east of the Palisades. Officials would name it the Eaton Fire, after a canyon near its origin.
Which is your house?
Yeah, this is our house. Backyard's on fire. I'm out of here.
That new fire blew up rapidly in the darkness, expanding its scale, forcing the evacuation of this assisted living facility.
You'll see the people on stretchers and just the effort, the very rapid effort to try to get these people out of harm's way.
As the night wore on, the hurricane-force winds reached upwards of 75, even 100 miles per hour. making it unsafe for those helicopters to fly.
We're trying to surround the fire, break it up into different divisions so geographically we can orchestrate an effective attack on it.
On Wednesday morning, plumes of smoke rose out of the canyons and blotted out the sun. The Palisades fire had continued its march west, scorching 5,000 acres in its path.
You can see these coastal beachfront homes just erupting in flames.
An estimated 1,000 structures had been razed by the fire. Cars, schools, churches, communities gone.
It's devastating. It is apocalyptic. This does not feel real.
Good morning. Thank you.
At a morning press conference, the Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Marrone didn't mince his words.
The fire is growing. We have no percentage of containment.
And 40 miles away, there were the first reports of deaths from that Eaton fire.
Unfortunately, we have 2 reported fatalities.
Tens of thousands of people remained under mandatory evacuation orders. And yet we found people returning to see what the fire had spared and what it had not.
Is this your home? I'm so sorry.
How long were you here?
My entire life. Yeah, I'm kind of in shock right now. Just watching this house burn down here too.
Armed with garden hoses and buckets, people whose homes were miraculously untouched threw water onto smoldering roofs and yards. In Altadena, KNBC reporter Michelle Vallis watched the neighbors rush to help a man hold back the flames, the monster winds fueling a sudden roll of fire.
These neighbors desperately tried to keep their home from catching fire.
And then rescue came.
Here they come! We're gonna help you!
More than 7,000 firefighters and emergency personnel had been deployed across the region since the fires began, saving who and what they could. Fighting walls of fire, often on foot, and sometimes running low on water.
Out of every fire hydrant you've seen, what have you found?
Right now, we're finding most of them are down or low pressure.
Help was on the way. Fire trucks hit the road from neighboring states. But the fires didn't wait.
Oh my God. Runyon Canyon is on fire.
A new fire took hold in the Hollywood Hills. Officials dubbed it the Sunset Fire and ordered people to evacuate. There was panic and gridlock on Sunset Boulevard as the fire pressed close to the Hollywood Bowl. And then a sound of hope people didn't know they'd been waiting for. Choppers in the air. Here, at least the winds had died down, giving firefighters a fighting chance. In fact, as the sun rose Thursday over Los Angeles, the winds remained calmer. CAL FIRE's Chief Brent Pasqua.
So this morning is a night and day difference from the last 2 days. I believe if it stays like this, we can actually turn a corner on these fires.
Firefighters were making significant headway on the Sunset Fire in the Hollywood Hills, and officials lifted evacuation orders there. As they gathered with reporters, they revealed how much had been lost so far in places like Altadena.
The Eaton fire remains estimated to be 10,600 acres, and we have 0% containment.
I have 5 friends who have lost their homes, 2 who've lost their entire block.
Closer to the coast, the Palisades fire burned more than 17,000 acres. The air was so toxic, schools throughout the region were closed. Life here is unrecognizable.
We can smell all of the chemicals and things that were inside these properties that were burning. It's just complete devastation, but home after home after home destroyed.
Early in the afternoon, television viewers witnessed a new disaster in the making. Flames from the Eaton fire were lapping at the edges of the iconic Mount Wilson Observatory. It's also a vital communications link, housing broadcast towers for the entire Los Angeles area. A KNBC engineer was inside that building, offering a lesson in competence and cool-headedness.
We've been preparing for this for a couple days now. We're in a good place up here. We've got a lot of assets that rolled in early this morning in preparation for what's happening now.
Hours later, the fire had retreated. Late Thursday, authorities imposed a curfew on the two largest evacuation zones to prevent looting and called in the California National Guard to assist. But fire, of course, remained the biggest threat. And sure enough, another one broke out, the Kenneth Fire in Bell Canyon. Evacuation orders went out.
We keep seeing these fires pop up in different places. If you're told to evacuate, then get the hell out.
By this morning, the death toll had climbed to 10 people. And tonight, the cause of all these fires remains under investigation. As Los Angeles neighborhoods continue to burn, people are bracing for whatever may come next.
I don't know how we recover, but I do know that we will rebuild, and we're going to rebuild together.
When we come back, residents of the hard-hit Palisades return home to a surreal scene. The Palisades fire is already the most destructive in LA history. Two of our correspondents, Jacob Soberoff and Katie Tur, grew up there. Like so many others, they returned to find a heartbreaking scene.
Pacific Palisades, a Los Angeles neighborhood 20 miles west of downtown, is the epicenter of this week's disaster. More than 5,000 homes and structures destroyed. About 20,000 acres razed by the flames, and nearly 40,000 people ordered to flee for their lives.
I grew up in Pacific Palisades, and I've never seen anything like this. The whole town was gone as we knew it. This is the Palisades Public Library. It's still on fire. I brought my kids here, I don't know, in the last 4 or 5 months. With their library cards, they check books out of here. Look at the fire still burning in the roof.
Then I drove along the world-famous Sunset Boulevard.
To me, Sunset Boulevard is the heart of my community. There's not a single house left standing here. What do you do? What do they do? There's just never, ever, ever been anything like this.
One of my best friends grew up here in the Palisades, too. MSNBC anchor Katie Tur. Here she is as a kid in the neighborhood. A heavy hitter, getting a jump on her career. We drove through streets filled with so many of our childhood memories and dreams. Growing up, we had fires too.
Did you ever evacuate?
No, we never evacuated.
And that's what's crazy. It's like everybody thought in the event of a natural disaster, this area is untouchable.
They just thought fire would be contained before it ever got down here. Thankfully, it mostly was until now. And this is the most densely packed area in the Palisades.
Not a single house is left here.
If I was going home, I'd make a left on this street.
Why don't we go there? Was that your front door?
Yeah, and this was the living room. We put a Christmas tree in this corner right here. And behind that was a bathroom that my dad set up a dark room for me in because I loved photography.
Our nostalgia was short-lived. There's too much real misery here. Too many lives upended.
And we just moved in 2 days before the fire. Do you know what you're going to do now? What were you able to get when you left? Nothing. Because you thought there's no way, right?
I was working really hard. I'm a couples therapist, and I was like working. I didn't know, and I came out and I saw a fireball, and I had to get out immediately.
Oh my God.
I grabbed. This is everything. I grabbed one painting.
Today I met Tanner Schaff. Tanner is from Minnesota, but happened to be visiting a friend when the flames engulfed the neighborhood. And then the house.
How are you doing? I mean, I think it's not an exaggeration to say you barely made it out alive.
I'm doing well. It was a bit overwhelming.
They fought the fire, but it was hopeless.
I'm a professional storm chaser. I have friends that firefight and give me a lot of knowledge, and I've been around some fires before, but nothing like this. Pretty much every house here got taken out.
I remember hearing you talk about the trees on fire. You could see the trees on fire. The thoughts that were going through your head at that moment when you realized we got to save our lives.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Just a sense of defeat.
They found themselves in an inferno.
Everything's on fire around us. You know, we're getting in his car. We're going down the street. It's thick. You can hardly see. And there was just kind of this just sombering feel in the car. You can't describe it.
Just nearby, Cafe Vita used to be at the heart of the community. Now it's a pile of charred rubble.
Oh my God. Look at this. This is just hard to believe, hijo.
Albie Fuentes has worked in Pacific Palisades for 34 years. I've known him almost as long.
What was it about this place that made it so special and made it so popular?
The enormous effort to make it like a second home, you know, for everybody.
What does it feel like to be here?
I have to cry so much, hijo. I have cried so much on these last days. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard.
What are you gonna do, Albie?
Right now, as for many people suffering this tragedy, our immediate future is uncertain. I don't know.
When you cover these things, you always hear people talk about, I can't imagine it happening, you know, to me, and this hasn't happened to me. But I look around the town, the neighborhood, the place that I grew up in. I talk to my friends who I spend so much time with on these streets, and it's hard to imagine what comes next and what happens next.
As the fire continues to eat away communities, you hardly dare think about the future. CAL FIRE Deputy Director Nick Schuler.
In my 26 years, this could be one of the top, most devastating fires I've seen.
What happens in a situation like this where the high school's destroyed, you got churches destroyed, you got the 2 supermarkets in the community destroyed? How do you come back from something like this?
They come back one day at a time.
I know it's hard for everybody, but let's keep our praise and let's keep our hopes and let's be together.
When we return, how residents of a unique community in LA are dealing with traumatizing loss while holding tight to what they do have left, one another. The National Guard has now joined the fight against the Eaton fire. One devastated area is the close-knit Altadena community. The sheer breadth of the devastation is mind-boggling, but really it's a series of painful, intimate losses suffered by family after family. Here's Gotti Schwartz.
The fire swept in like a hurricane Tuesday night, flames ripping through Altadena at a relentless pace.
You can see so many homes over here have been destroyed, and that fire continues to burn all around us. We're hearing the sound of explosions. Watch out, there's a down power line over here, so I think this is as far as we're gonna go. But it is just an absolute wasteland.
The city sits at the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, a hardworking and diverse community who put everything they had into their homes. It gave them a sense of pride. James Fowler grew up in this neighborhood. His father bought a home here in the early 60s, and James's mother moved in when they got married. They raised a family, put down roots, from weekend barbecues in the backyard and afternoon swims to celebrating engagements and birthdays.
Happy birthday, dear Jimmy.
This home was the backdrop for all the big Fowler family moments, and it's the place where his father passed away. Afterwards, James continued to live there with his mother, embraced by their tight-knit community. But as the smoke finally lifted on Wednesday morning, it became clear. James's hometown was forever changed.
I'm so sorry. It's all gone.
James's brother-in-law made his way to the family home and sent this video.
Oh my God. Oh God. It's gone.
This is what the house looked like before the fire. Now all that's left is a chimney and a truck in the driveway. Thursday afternoon, James returned to his beloved Altadena.
I knew people all up and down here on the mountain, all around this whole area. This whole area is where I grew up, really.
Driving the streets, James looked for his local restaurants, his schools. But was all gone.
I thought to my head and cried yet, you know, because it's so devastating and so shocking, you know? And it's just like, I didn't believe it's real, and now seeing it is like, you know.
He finally made it to his family's home. He wanted to see it with his own eyes.
I can't really make anything out.
A home in ruins.
There you go. It's wild. This is devastating. Just, of course, the smoker is fine. Made a lot of good barbecue, honestly, for many years.
And then his father's truck, slightly melted, but still there. Perhaps a message of strength from above.
There's a haunting serenity up here, even in this.
Yeah, it's still so unbelievable, you know.
James never imagined any of this when he last left the house as the flames approached.
I knew it was coming this way. We've escaped fires before. I grabbed what I could, and we decided that, you know, it's time to go.
James packed up his father's ashes, some clothes, and a toothbrush, and banged on neighbors' doors as he left to warn them.
It seemed kind of chaotic.
The family had evacuated from fires before.
It was very scary up here as we were leaving. The glow was terrifying.
This time was different.
This was such a beautiful home. It sounds like it was your father's forever home. It was your forever home. This is where you wanted to spend your life.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. And who knows, you know, maybe we rebuild here, you know, I'm concerned.
A new home, he knows, will never be the same, but the people are.
I'll be honest with you in saying that, like, while it's overwhelming and it is big stuff, it's still just stuff, you know. So that's something I have to remember, that it's big stuff, but it's just stuff, right?
When you have a community like this, it does make it a little bit easier.
That's right. I'm just grateful for what I've got. You know, I've got great friends, I've got a great family, I've got a great support system, got a great church, a great community. So it's just, you know, I'm grateful.
When we come back, a hair-raising ride-along with a first responder. For the 8,000 or so first responders on the ground in L.A., grueling doesn't begin to cover what they're going through. Firefighters are facing endless shifts as they battle this once-in-a-generation event. Tom Yamas rode along with a fire captain for whom the mission feels both impossible and emotional.
Bring the engine right here.
It's been a 4-day nightmare for firefighters in Southern California. Today, we went into LA's rustic Topanga Canyon. It's on the north flank of the Palisades fire. Flames, smoke, and a battle up and down the mountain. We rode along the twisty roads to find the heart of the firefight with Battalion Chief Brent Pasqua from CAL FIRE.
So we're doing everything we can right now to control the spread of this fire. If we can jump on this fire now, stop the spread of it, when the wind comes, we'll be in better shape to not have a fire escape out of our perimeter and keep this within the perimeter.
We're in the middle of the Palisades firefight right now. That is a Firehawk. It's a Black Hawk helicopter that has up to 1,000 gallons of water, dropping it right on some of the hottest spots of this wildfire.
The crews gave hope to residents who were fighting the fire themselves. They were relieved to look upward.
What impact did those airdrops have?
Well, tremendous impact, because the accuracy of those airdrops was unbelievable.
At times, the fire crews got a little bit of help from residents. We met one woman, 6 months pregnant.
Tell me what you're doing right now.
Trying to save my house.
The firefighters exhausted, but on a mission to save lives and homes. Like Captain Craig Blevins, already on duty for nearly 30 hours when we spoke to him.
We showed up here yesterday morning about 5 a.m. You haven't slept? Not really. But you're going to go as long as it takes? Yeah. How tough has it been fighting the winds? Yeah, you can't really beat the winds.
This was like an 80-mile-an-hour blowtorch, just heating each house up and lighting it on fire one after the other. You couldn't believe it. If we had a crew at every house, we still would have had a heck of a firefight on our hands.
There's nothing left here.
It's so hard to see. You know, this is not what we do this job for. We come to win, and you can see one house is standing, but our goal is for all of them to be standing, so this is hard to see for sure.
Yeah, do you see how...
On our ride, we saw this burnt-out shell, gray and ghostly. Hard to believe this was actually someone's home.
Luckily, the tree is still standing, but
it belonged to Greg and Jennifer Champion and their 3 daughters. They were waiting at a checkpoint, but weren't allowed to get in to see their home of 2 years. But CAL FIRE Battalion Chief Pasqua brought us there so we could report back.
I wanted to find something for them, maybe a photo or a toy, anything to bring back to the family to say this survived, but there's nothing. The only thing I can find is this right here. It's some type of decoration. Maybe it was here in the living room. It's a ring of shells. I hope it means something to them. I'm going to give it to them. I'd try to see if there's anything I could grab. This is the only thing I found. I don't know if it means anything.
Oh,
yeah,
I actually do really love this.
The memento brought memories and then tears.
I do love it. No, thank you so much. Little treasures.
This family was grateful to be alive and grateful to the firefighters who tried to save their neighborhood.
Along with the wind and flames, something else is flying in L.A. Questions. This city has seen fires before, so why is this time so much worse? And what can be done to stop it from happening again? Here's Josh Mankiewicz.
If you live in Southern California, you expect the wind to blow. You do not expect it to bring death. So what went wrong this time? The answer is just about everything.
We had 80 to 100 mile per hour gusts. Those are hurricane force winds.
NBC meteorologist Dylan Dreyer was in Los Angeles and witnessed the devastation firsthand.
This is all that's left of this school. There hasn't been significant rain since October, so everything is bone dry. All it takes is a spark.
Wildfires are often best fought from above. That didn't work as well this time. Pomona College professor Char Miller is an expert on wildfires.
When the winds are at 40 miles an hour, they cannot fly into these canyons, fly over these areas. Now double that airspeed to 80, and you'll understand the dilemma they faced.
Often that wind overwhelmed the work of the fire department's boots on the ground.
As a fire boss once told me, when the wind is 10 miles an hour, I'm a firefighter. When it's 30 miles an hour, I'm an observer.
It was during that first night that water ran short in some areas because firefighters had used so much of it.
This hydrant has no water in it.
What is going on with the water situation?
We have had some issues with water. If you stick enough straws into a glass of water, it's going to empty faster.
Even if you turn every fire hydrant on, the more water you're running, the less pressure you have. And without that water pressure, how do you get it strong enough from the hoses to put out these fires?
Some people in LA wanted more than explanations, like this resident who confronted California Governor Gavin Newsom.
What are you going to do with the president right now?
We're getting the resources to help rebuild. We're getting the resources.
Why is there no water in the hydrants, Governor?
That's all literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be.
This afternoon, Governor Newsom asked for an independent investigation into the loss of water pressure. Stories online link the destruction to cuts in the LA Fire Department's budget. The full picture is a little more complex. At a time when cities everywhere are prioritizing police funding, LA's fire chief argued to the mayor that less money for overtime impacted the department's ability to provide service.
There were no reductions that were made that would have impacted the situation that we were dealing with over the last couple of days.
For some, the truth was simpler and also tougher to hear. Firefighters and first responders were simply outmatched.
The winds were too strong, the flames were too intense, the topography was too dangerous, and that's a perfect storm and a very dangerous one.
Professor Miller says today's crisis and tomorrow's will require a big discussion and some decisive action from our political leaders.
These fires are getting bigger, and we need resources to be able to fight them to sustain life in this region.
There's no question that in the years to come, millions will remain in harm's way, either by choice or necessity. Professor Miller says there are ways to make communities safer and more resilient. It won't be easy. It will take political consensus, long-term commitments, and significant investment. The stakes could not be higher.
We've got capital that can be invested in it, but if the Southern California can't fix this problem, it's not fixable. Then it means that California is not livable.
Coming up, despite the horror and tragedy, there are glimmers of good news tonight, stories of bravery and ingenuity when we come back. As horrifying and heartbreaking as the scenes of destruction are, many LA residents remain determined to protect what they can, whether risking their own safety to track down the family pet or picking up a garden hose to save a home. Small acts of gumption show us there's one thing that cannot be extinguished: the human spirit. Here's Liz Kreutz.
The scenes of destruction and devastation across Los Angeles over the last 4 days and nights are almost too much to comprehend.
Here on PCH, home after home after home of these beachfront properties destroyed. Usually their view, the Pacific Ocean, now just ashes and smoke.
This is all that's left of the house Steve Wiggins shared with his parents.
We lost all our things. His partner's all our photographs and all my grandpa's antique chest and all that kind of stuff, you know.
But also buried in the rubble, something else. A small sense of hope.
That's all right. We're survivors. We'll get through it. We'll build another home.
Go, hey, go this way.
Amid all the chaos and pain this week, we've seen many signs of resilience, too.
A fire is literally on the hill where I live.
What's going through your mind when you see that?
I hope to God my dogs are okay. They're my family.
Yeah, clearly your dogs mean everything to you.
I don't care about the house. I care about my dog.
Casey Colvin lives in Pacific Palisades and left his home in the morning before the fires began, never expecting what would happen next.
I got an evacuation order at like 11 in the morning on my phone. My boss is actually calling me saying, is everything okay in the Palisades? I said, I'm in the city. I don't know.
His first and only thought was for his little dogs waiting for him at home.
I literally rescued them off the street. They deserve better than this.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
How do I get to my house?
We're gonna, okay.
The next hour was the longest Casey can remember.
He just came to me, though, and said that the first responders who saw him went to his home and checked on his dogs.
Moments later.
You got the dog?
Yeah, this is my daughter. The behavioral dog, he ran out of the house, though.
Do you know where the other one is?
No, I have an air tag on him, but it doesn't seem to be working.
Oh.
Here's the other leash.
Oh, what's her name or his name?
Tika Tika Tika.
Casey is hopeful his other dog will also be home soon. On the other side of town, as the fires raged, Abraham Kevorkian took a huge risk. But the next day, he had a huge reward.
My driveway, they're coming. The embers are all coming.
What happened? That you basically were the last man standing on the street?
Right now, it seems like I'm the last man standing in the street.
Abraham and his wife went to sleep with the fire in the mountains, far away. But then,
when we woke up, I see a big blaze of red right there where the school area is, right? You can see the school now because there's no homes left.
It was time to go.
We started packing up. I packed all the stuff in the car, and I told her, go ahead and take off. I'll follow you.
But Abraham didn't follow his wife.
Whatever I can get water on, I'm doing it.
Abraham says he never got an evacuation notice, but when he saw the house across the street in flames, he decided to stay. even though firefighters urged him to leave.
I see a cloud of smoke, fire, embers, just like a rain flying over me. So all I'm doing is just with a hose, just like, because it got so hot, the embers were just falling down.
With no time to think, Abraham just kept doing.
I did whatever I can to hose. Then I realized that some embers had fallen next to the neighbor's house. I'm like, oh, shit. So I went and grabbed his hose. I noticed that there was more water pressure. After that, I started running around, spraying other people's neighbors' rooftops.
For hours, Abraham says he sprayed water on his house and his neighbors.
I said, I'm still alive. I just gotta keep fighting. There's nobody coming here. There's nobody on the street except me. And I just kept going with the water.
Abraham knew it was a big risk, the kind authorities urged people not to take. But the next morning, he was still standing, and so was his house.
If I didn't stay, I believe, if I didn't stay and wet this whole roof over and over again, I think it would have caught on fire and the house would have been lost. I believe that. I think that I did save this house. If I had more water, I think I would have done more. I would have helped everybody that I can in my power. Why not?
What is your hope for this community?
I'll come back and rebuild it. Oh yeah, don't give up. Don't just walk away. You know, sometimes we have to start all over again.
When we come back, Keith Morrison, longtime Angelino, with his thoughts on what's next for L.A., a remarkable, some say impossible city. Los Angeles, a sprawling, singular city that traffics in fantasy, knows real-life tragedy and catastrophe all too well. L.A. also knows how to battle back. How does it keep beating the odds? As Keith Morrison tells us, it has more than movie magic.
What a crazy idea it is. What a bit of madness. This vast, sprawling city, collection of cities, on an earthquake-prone, drought-prone, fire-prone desert by the sea. What were we thinking? Even the water. Water to drink. Water to water. Water to fight the fires. Imported from somewhere else. Like the people. And yes, it is glorious and inspired, and has given the whole world 100 years of drama and joy and laughter. Its names and faces known and loved and loathed by humans everywhere.
Can I help you load the chairs in?
And every once in a while, it is just impossible.
I'm trying to find my dad.
Which is how living in L.A. feels to a lot of people just now. Impossible and terrifying.
The flames are just kind of leaping right over us.
This one, many fires at once, is perhaps the worst of them. But there are so many, many stories in the history of this great benighted city. There has been so much loss.
Fire has jumped Mulholland at the crest of the Santa Monica. Headed toward Bel Air.
Rare is the Angelino who remembers this one personally.
Fire crews
This was 1961, and it was Bel Air. This one destroyed 484 homes, chewed through 6,000 acres of prime real estate. Burt Lancaster's house burned down, and Joan Fontaine's and Zsa Zsa Gabor's and Dennis Hopper's.
I'm Tom Brokaw over Laguna Beach, California.
This is the one they call the Great Fire of '93. Took out a giant swath of Laguna. And there were more. There have always been more. One fire after another some years through the Santa Ana winds of winter so dry that pliant oak and chaparral shriveled to kindling, practically begged to be burned. How often have bits of Malibu gone down in flames to take multi-million-dollar mansions with them? Are we keeping track of the fires and the droughts and the floods and the earthquakes and the gridlock and housing prices that are clearly insane? And still we come here. Because there is something about Los Angeles, this siren of a city by the sea, that pulls us in and makes us stay even if we tell ourselves we probably shouldn't. Will it be different this time? Now that it's worse, much worse. That Great Fire of '93 took out something like 700 houses. This time, 31 years later, more than 10,000 homes have been lost. We'll argue, of course, about mitigation practices, about what we should have done, and about climate change for sure. Is that what made this one so big, so bad? But here is an easy prediction. Though it will be very difficult, it will all be rebuilt. And most of us will stay. And more will come to this great mess of a city, even if, at the moment, it feels like the end of the world.
Thanks, Keith, for reminding us of the strange power of that captivating city, one that keeps so many of us coming back in good times and sometimes even bad. You can continue to follow the story with live updates on NBCNews.com and the NBC News app. And we'll have much more tomorrow on Today and NBC Nightly News. Your local news is next. I'm Lester Holt. For all of us at NBC News, good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.